Focus up, nerds. It's time to get underway with some Modern here from Barcelona. My name's Riley Knight, joined by Eduardo Sajkulik. Modern in a great state of flux, my friends. We're going to calm those raging waters as we head down to the feature match area, see how things shake out. Let's get to it, my friends. You can see on your screens now our two competitors, Brian Braun-Duin against Joe Lossett here. Joe Lossett is on Tron, I should say, traditional Tron, mono green Tron, and his opponent here, it's BBD Oi. He's Dynamite, and he's playing Urza Thopter Sword. Now, Eduardo, this is a newer deck. I want to hear your perspective as these guys get underway of what is exactly going on with Thopter Sword.
Well, recently, well, not so recently, but a while back, sort of the meat got unbanned. It was banned in Modern because of the combo with Thopter Foundry, where you translate 1 mana, gain 1 life, make a 1/1 creature, and you can do this as much as you want. However, it turned out that wasn't powerful enough in Modern.
Not by a wide margin.
Now, Modern Horizons, that brought Urza Lord High Artificer. And since you can tap an artifact to produce mana, how about that Sword of the Meek that's coming back into play untapped? Every time.
It's now generating, oh my goodness,
look
at
at this is beautiful.
BBD with an just immediately asserting his dominance on this game. He says, that expedition map, mate, that's going to lead you right up the garden path.
That was super key. I mean, Joe had
unnatural Tron.
Yeah, kind of.
He had turn 3 Tron.
Yeah.
But not anymore with that Pithing Needle now. Arkham's Astrolabe as well off that snow-covered island. And a Mox Opal as well. So Braun-Duin firing on all cylinders as another Astrolabe comes out.
That was kind of a little sweet moment where you tap the Astrolabe to fix snow mana.
Yeah, exactly. It's not exactly, it fixes for colors, but it also fixes for snow as well, as we see a second Astrolabe, but no second land for Braun-Duin here. You were saying before about the Thopter Sword combo, how powerful it wasn't, but now with Urza, it becomes an infinite combo, right?
Right. Again, you can tap the Sword of the Meek for mana, so every time you sacrifice Sword of the Meek for a mana, it goes to the graveyard, it comes back because you make a 1/1. That Sword of the Meek's untapped, that's infinite mana. Well, not so much, infinite creatures, that makes infinite mana, and that gets your whole deck out on the table. And then you can win, infinite life, infinite creature. You can figure something out.
You figure, I mean, whatever, just kind of whatever's lying around. It's like when as we see now Urza come down, it's like when you you go to the pantry, you haven't been to the supermarket for a while, like, I'll cook something. I'll get the beans out, I'll get the pasta, and it'll be fine. We're going to get fed. And Brian Braun-Duin, he's a hungry boy. And with this marquee card on the battlefield here, things looking good for him. Lossett just said go. He had nothing to do last turn. And now Braun-Duin is getting it done with construct tokens, cycling through artifacts, and he is all business.
Yeah, I mean, just going off, your Urza generating so much mana. Here, with that second land drawn and the second Mox Opal from hand allowing to generate additional mana, Brian essentially able to just go off.
Yeah.
Like, it's not infinite, but it is doing a lot of work here.
I mean, especially against Joe Lossett and a Tron, a deck that doesn't necessarily play the hugest amount of interaction. There are cards like Dismember, there's things like Oblivion Stone, but when you're stuck on 2 textless lands that produce 1 color of mana, you've got an expedition map out there that the cat's crawled over, left its footprints, you can't read head or tail of it. And now Braun-Duin, with Ichor Wellspring, Nihil Spellbomb in hand.
And remember, every time a Thopter gets made, that's just more mana.
Another mana source.
Yeah.
Exactly. So here's the Ichor Wellspring.
That generates mana and a Thopter.
And a card.
A couple.
He's not mucking around. He isn't buried the lead. He's like, hey guys, got this sweet brew. Got this sweet new deck. You know what? The slow reveal. He's just like, bam, in your face.
Yeah, and that needle on map was so crucial. Joe had access to free Oblivion Stones in hand. And even though BBD was going all the way, an Oblivion Stone in hand would have been a big problem.
All right, so Braun-Duin passed it back to Lossett. Now, Lossett is holding Khan the Great Creator, but it's not enough here as Chromatic Star gets cycled away, draws a card. And, of course, with no more mana sources here for Lossett, Braun-Duin with the, turn 1 Pithing Needle. What a play from him. It's been absolutely decisive. Lossett has been out of this from... Now, Eduardo, you made a prediction, a wild guess heading into this tournament. We were talking about this yesterday. Do you want to reveal to the audience what your prediction for this tournament was?
My prediction was that the game would end on turn 1.
That we would see a game end on turn number 1. Now, we haven't seen that in a technical sense.
No, not quite, yeah.
But I mean, basically, right?
It's close. I think here the key is that Joe still had some draws, but yeah.
But
here,
not against
Goblin
this,
Engineer gets
Gets the Sword of the Meek.
Gets you all the cards you want. All the creatures,
Foundry,
everything.
Urza Lord High Artificer, and Brian Braun-Duin demonstrates a loop just like that. You can see his face, ooh, a lingering sense of regret.
We didn't mention Goblin Engineer, also from Modern Horizons, acting as kind of a semi-tutor, making the deck much more resilient in that fashion.
Of course, there are so... I mean, this deck really wasn't possible without what Modern Horizons has brought to it, right? Goblin Engineer, some of the snow cards as well.
The Astrolabe, the snow-covered... Yeah, the lands. Like, there's so many small pieces that... Urza's like the kind of big, flashy one, but all these little pieces add up to a lot.
Well, we're going to get the chance to chat about it a bit later on, my friends. Right now, we're going to go to a quick break. We'll see you back here live from Barcelona after this.
When I started playing Magic, a friend of mine showed me a video of a player which he was pile shuffling super fast. And I started practicing that at home. So I'm gonna try to redo, it was like something like this.
Now a lot of people do 6 piles, but I am a monument to vanity, so I do 9.
When I see people that do this, they spend energy on every single card. And you don't have that amount of energy if you want to win the tournament.
Then we switch it up. We don't do it in the same order. Look at that.
So what you do is you just drop the cards. You just spend 0 energy.
It's a mountain.
And then you just pick them up again, and you continue going.
Gather it up like a penguin. You just kind of keep mushing them, and then once again gently, as you would hold the hand of a lover. And you have never seen a deck more shuffled than this.
And welcome back to live coverage of Mythic Championship Barcelona. My name's Riley Knight, joined by Eduardo Saj-Gallic. We're going to head down to the feature match area and see action continue here from Spain. We saw BBD pick up a quick victory with his Urza Thopter Sword deck. And while these guys are shuffling up and getting ready for game number 2, it gives us a good chance to talk about exactly what role this deck plays in the new modern metagame. It is not quite a fringe play, but it's not quite a top-shelf deck just yet, Eduardo.
That's correct. One of the things is a deck like this has so many moving parts that finding the optimal list can be really difficult. Something like Hogak, it's like, okay, well, Stitcher's Supplier is clearly the best enabler at 1 mana. Vengevine clearly works with Hogak. So you kind of get centralized lists very quickly. With something like, you know, Thopter Sword, you end up going, actually, what's the right build? Every card matters because one of artifacts that can be tutored with Goblin Engineer. So it can be really tough here.
We're going to move over to Table B now while BBD and Joe Lossett are shuffling up. So it gives us a chance to have a live look in now between Martin Dang and Jacob Wilson. You had your eye on Jacob Wilson's list from just a few moments as we were heading, before we headed into this round, Eduardo, and it is Mardu Esper Shadow, or Mardu Death Shadow, excuse me.
Yeah, I'm in love with this.
Oh yeah. Oh
this is exactly like one of the big evolutions from the metagame that's been hidden is that, you know, there's a lot of cards that have been printed for Death Shadow, but they're not in the traditional Grixis colors. The big one was definitely Ranger, Captain of Eos, capable of both looking for Death Shadow and also preventing spells from your opponent. And then you can chain that with Unearth to kind of get more Death Shadows, preventing your opponent from playing, and just, you know, kill them on short order.
I really can't believe how little of an impact Unearth seems to have had on the format. It's such a good... I mean, is it just... Are people just not awoken to it yet? Like, people just not realize how good this card is?
I think there might be more powerful graveyard-based activity.
Man, I don't know. It seems so good. Martin Dang, we've got a reader here. Hex Parasite. You may not be familiar with this card. A really weird rare from New Phyrexia. It says X and a Phyrexian. Remove up to X counters from target permanent. Obviously, we're not going to be doing too much of that. It's just there so Wilson can get his life nice and low for those Death Shadows. Although, at 1 life, I'm pretty sure he's set where he's at. He's not going to be activating that anytime soon.
Yeah, that instant Neonate is Menace win the game.
At the moment, yeah, that's right. At the moment, just a little peck away with the Neonate will do it here. But Wilson does still seem to be in a surprisingly good position. He does have the board more or less locked down with his massive 12-12 here. So he just needs to find a way to push through that final damage. And does he have it here?
Yeah,
Fatal
pretty
push?
much. Bloodghast can't block, so unless Martin draws that Assassin's Trophy.
Nope. No dice. In they come. Big attack now from Jacob Wilson. Slams in with his 12-12 and cleans it up. Easy does it, just like that.
By the way, one little thing that I spotted in graveyard was the Nihil Spellbomb. And I really like trying to configure your deck in a way like this. You're like, okay, my game plan against a deck like Hogak is decent, so I'm okay with that. I don't have to distort my deck and put Leylines of the Voidmage deck. But you know what? I can put also, I know there's a lot, so I'll put a few
Just a little bit.
spell bombs. But they can't trip, right? You get the card back. Exactly.
That's right. We move back to our front table now. Brian Braun-Duin, Joe Lossett. There is Lossett on the screen, and he certainly did Lossett in game number 1. He'll be looking to avenge that, of course. But BBD, cool as ice. Look at him go, ready to go with this new Thopter Sword list. We've spent a lot of time talking about it. Let's talk about Tron for just a little bit, because I know there are some depraved maniacs out there who consider this a pet deck of theirs. It's taken a bit of a back seat recently, Eduardo.
Yeah, one of the issues with Tron and the reason Eldrazi Tron is seeing more play is that Tron is relatively weak against graveyard-based decks. I wonder what the talk of the tournament is these days. Yeah,
it's not the right moment for Tron, and it's not the right moment for us to get underway with this game as we see Lossett take a mulligan. That means we move back to Table C. Jack Keefer, the young gun from the States, up against Matt Costa, the old gun from the States, I suppose. That one didn't really come together. Probably need a little bit more time in the oven, but he's playing Izzet Phoenix. This is another deck that we're expecting big results from this weekend.
Yeah, 10% of the field on the deck. Definitely a deck that high-level players prefer. A lot of card selection, a lot of options.
A lot of decision points.
Exactly. And a relatively consistent game plan. When you look at decks that top players play, anything that allows you to be consistent and change your game plan is usually extremely favored by them.
This is the thing, right? It offers flexibility as well as consistency and a very powerful proactive game plan, and it just attracts, yeah, as you say, high-level players. Javier Dominguez has made this deck his own. He's built his identity in Modern around this list. He's had enormous success with it as well. You were there in Florence when he won a recent Red Bull qualifier with it, and I mean, he was on a tear. No one could stop him.
Right. I had the pleasure of being there and watching him kill his opponent from 55 or 60 life.
It was so wild. Just unbelievable. What are you doing, Javier Dominguez, mate?
It was with that card that Matthew has on the scry, Aria Flame.
Yeah, this is a really important piece of technology, a new upgrade to the list that diversifies the threats in the Izzet list.
Right. One of the things that I didn't like personally with these lists was Crackling Drake before. I thought the card was honestly just not good. But Aria Flame is now the de facto option because it's not a creature, which means it attacks on a very different angle. And it's inevitable. If it's in play, you will win eventually. So your opponent has to do something, right?
Yeah, as you say, it gives you inevitability. It is an inevitable win condition that eventually, just by, Costa playing his Thought Scours, his Faithless Lootings, whatever, the Aria will win the game.
Exactly. That said, not necessarily the card you would want in a matchup like this. You probably don't have the time.
Well, Arclight Phoenix comes back, but no attacks here for Costa. We don't have the life totals fixed just yet. It looks like Costa might be on 6 and his opponent on a very robust 20. That's going off of the arcane scribblings there. Maybe down to 19 now as we see Costa update the life totals on that pad. But Keefer, I want to talk about the Keefer family. They are a family of upcoming powerhouse magicians here, well supported by their parents who are always in attendance. Lovely, lovely people indeed. And Jack is, there's a lot to be said about the mentorship that the Keefer boys are getting from some of the best in the game. Luis Scott Vargas all the way down. They're getting exposure to the finest minds in the game, and I expect the Keefer dynasty to represent high-end Magic in the coming years.
Yeah, I find the support from the community for up-and-coming players to be actually really good these days.
Of course. And I mean, that's why I'm trying to get them the Keefer train as well, so, they remember me when they're famous. I'm just really trying to pull hard for them while they're, I liked them before they were cool. Jack Keefer gets it done here against Matthew Costa. Hogak taking names once again in the feature match area. Expect to see a lot of that this weekend. This deck is nuts. And we're going to see a lot of graveyard-based shenanigans with Izzet Phoenix, with Hogak at the top of the pile. And of course, there'll be some brave heroes who are looking to buck that trend. 2 such heroes on your screen now, BBD and Joe Lossett. I think Lossett at this point...
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to interrupt you. Did you just call Tron the hero?
No. I retract it.
This is recorded.
No, I retract
Somebody
it.
Can clip
no
that,
proof.
please.
There's no evidence.
Please.
There's no evidence to suggest that I would say anything positive about Tron at any point. Joe Lossett, unfortunately, I think he's mulliganing to -3 at this point. He's taken... Oh, no, and he hates this as well. Oh, Joe, stop doing it. You're breaking my heart. How is this happening? How is this happening that I'm feeling sorry for someone who's wanting to calm me on turn 3? Eduardo, what is this timeline we live in?
It is a very alternative.
This is like when you're playing like Skyrim, and you see something off in the distance. You're like, I'm going to save my game. I'm going to go and see what that is. I'm going to mess it up. I'll just have a bit of fun, and then I'll save game, get over to Rorikstead, continue to save the universe there. Joe Lossett on Tron, breaking my heart here. I'm going to have to reload a save game, go back to when Tron was evil. What's happened?
I mean, the deck mulligans aggressively now, right? Like with the new, remember the London mulligans recent. It was tested in London, where Tron was the most popular deck, and there was a reason for that. Is that it can mulligan very low and still get there.
All right.
If Joe's at 4, it's possible. Free Tron lands in Karn.
Is he at 4? Is he mulligan to 4? I feel like he's mulligan to 3. All right, he likes this. No, he doesn't. He hates it. Oh, he hates it.
Too early.
Oh, no, too early.
One, two.
Are these the cards that he's keeping or the cards he's putting away? That's going to be interesting as well. I mean, look, in all seriousness, I think you make a very valid point there. All right, keeping a 4 that looks like Tronland, Ancient Stirrings, Karn, and no.
No, those are the ones
he's
going
mulligan
away.
To 3. He's mulligan to 3. All right. You make a good point, Eduardo, about Tron being able to go down to a low number of cards because ultimately they need 4 cards. They need 3 Tron lands and a Karn.
Yep, a payoff.
And that will win a non-zero number of games.
Exactly. But look.
Okay.
I mean, we have 2 Tron pieces.
Yeah, Lossett's getting it done here. With this Ancient Stirrings, could find another piece of the puzzle here. And is that another Ancient Stirrings in hand as well?
It looked more like Nature's Claim to me.
Oh, yeah. No, you're right. You're correct, yeah. All right, there's Karn Liberated. So there's that threat. We'll see what the next play is. Okay, Urza's
See,
Tower.
if Joe draws the miracle
and
mine.
they always do. And they always do, Eduardo. So Braun-Duin now, you can see his hand is a little less
One
flashy.
second, we can maybe move that
just a little bit, yeah.
Like, it doesn't look like much, but you can see those 2. If you've just joined us there and see 2 cards tossed to the side, that's not like some face down, or that's not face down or anything. That's Joe's hand.
That is Joe Lossett's hand after a mulligan to 3 here. Now, Braun-Duin does play a Mind Stone. In hand for him, Ichor Wellspring, Goblin Engineer, and triple Urza Lord High Artificer. Now, Goblin Engineer, its activated ability is only of fringe application in this list. Generally, it wants to go and get a sword, put it in the bin.
Yeah. The sword is definitely the go-to piece, but there's some powerful artifacts. Hogak's in the field, so obviously something like Ensnaring Bridge is going to be in the main deck. Some Grafdigger's Cage. There's a myriad of options.
Yeah.
But what the Engineer allows is only one sort of the Meek to be in the deck. You don't have to play. Before, the Thopter Sword decks had to play so many copies of this card, but with Whir Invasion,
you just feel like such an idiot. Yeah, absolutely.
But now you have Goblin Engineer and Whir, and that means, okay, 1 copy's good.
And it also means, as you say, that a bunch of Silver Bullet 1-ofs can all appear in the main deck. Here is Urza coming down a turn earlier ahead of schedule, thanks to that Mind Stone. But Grafdigger's Cage, No-Hill Spellbomb, Pithing Needle, Pirate Spellbomb, Sword of the Meek, all as 1-ofs there to be searched up by the Goblin Engineer, and a lot of them very, very good against Hogak.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know the deck's coming, so you build it for. But in this game, Goblin Engineer, it's just going to be... I mean, honestly, as long as BBD just continues things and fires off this Thoughtseize, at some point it's going to be difficult for Joe to come back from this.
So there's the Goblin Engineer, tapped cast using that Thopter Foundry. Of course, could be tapped for blue mana. And
I mean,
Engineer's going to find the sword. Yeah,
because you can tap the Construct here.
And the Mind Stone as well.
Sacrifice the Construct, and then, that's it.
So Brian Braun-Duin, is this a turn 3 victory here with Urza Thopter Sword?
I believe we're turn 4.
No, it's turn 3. It's turn 3, dude. He played a Mind Stone on turn 2. Urza on turn 3.
And then just,
Thopter Sword Foundry gets it done.
Holy smokes.
Oh, my goodness. And Joe Lossett just can't believe it. After a mulligan to 3, after all of that, Brian Braun-Duin just had it and got away with a turn 3 victory with this new Urza list. And I'm at a loss for words. What an incredible victory for Brian Braun-Duin with a deck that, I mean, we knew about, but we're seeing its power really put on display.
Yeah, that was a cool showcase of that deck, I'd say. In all honesty, in this matchup, I'd say BBD was favored. There's more options. You can shut down what the Tron opponent is doing, and you do have kind of a way to go over the top. So typically not the best matchups for Tron, but obviously much easier if your opponent mulligans to free.
Yeah, you are kind of, you've gone to settings, you've gone to difficulty, and you put it down to novice at that point. But we're going to move to our back table now. We checked in with these guys earlier, and we're going to check in with them once again. Jacob Wilson and Martin Dang, the Danish juggernaut on the left-hand side of the screen. A Mythic champion, of course, winning at Pro Tour Dragons of Tarkia. And Jacob Wilson, no slouch himself. This guy's been around, very well-respected pro, of course. And he is on, as we were talking about before, on Maru Pyromancer. I was about to say Maru Pyromancer, Maru Death Shadow.
Yeah. Yeah, and Jacob is very good with these kind of aggro control deck lists. A real, like, honestly, I've seen him play for years and really masters this kind of archetype.
So at 13 here, Wilson still unable to commit Death Shadows to the board, but Shockland's in hand if he needs to get his life total a little bit lower. There's that Nihil Spell Bomb.
By the way, we already see an interaction. Martin is low on cards and had to Nature's Claim a Leyline of the Void.
Oh, yeah.
That tells you a lot about the format. It's very small, but you have to mulligan aggressively to try to protect yourself from Leyline. So at that point, it means like the players may start on very low amounts of cards.
So we're seeing a very resource-deprived set of games here with Martin Dang having to deal with that Leyline. And in hand for him, I can see a Stitches Supply. That one may have been fresh off the top here.
Yeah. By the way, you know what's good with low hands?
Oh,
Thoughtseize.
And Ensnaring Ridge.
Well, that's a different type of low hand.
But yes, also Thoughtseize, very good. Pick apart those last final pieces, exactly. Wow.
Yeah, if you're on the play, it's pretty brutal. They mulligan to 5, try to find an answer or a leyline, then you Thoughtseize their hand.
Yeah. Yep, not so hot. All right, Hogak in hand. In addition to that Stitches Supplier, there is the Supplier. An innocuous enough card from M19, but it's certainly doing a lot of work in Modern here. Ooh, mills over another Bloodghast.
Yeah, but again, Jacob had the Nihil Spellbomb ready, and because, again, Hogak requires green-black hybrid twice, Insolent Neonate. I mean, it can convoke it, but it doesn't pay for the colored mana cost. So here, even though Martin could have technically, you know, fired off Hogak with those 5 cards, if there were 2 creatures, one of them being red prevents that.
So Nihil Spellbomb cracked. Away go the double Bloodghasts, and Ranger Captain of Eos goes and searches for Death's Shadow. This is a new one from Modern Horizons, recent addition to the format, and as you highlighted before, Eduardo, it has 2 very relevant abilities in this list.
Yeah, the first one, get Death Shadow. I mean, you also have Hex Drinker, which can act if you already have Death Shadow as kind of a, you know, pump spell. But the important one for some matchups is that second one, sacrificing it so that your opponent can't cast, you know, non-creature spells. Not so relevant in this matchup, but against something like Blue-White Control, that can be incredible. Oh,
absolutely. Shut off that any Wraths, any sorcery speed removal, anything else like that. Yeah, it can be huge for sure.
It's at its best against Terminus because they have to reveal it.
Oh, yeah, and then you're just like, nah, no, sorry, no.
No, thank you.
No. All right, so for Dang now, empty graveyard for him, facing off against Wilson, really getting it done here on 9 life. He's got a Death Shadow to deploy and a Celestial Purge off the top.
That's a beautiful draw.
That is very hot.
Yeah.
In comes the 3/3 now. Dang probably will just take it, go down to 11. Is that a Dismember in hand for him? No, Vengevine, excuse me.
Yeah. It's like the promo Vengevine.
Yeah, I saw the promo star, and I was like, oh, Dismember. They did a printing of that. Stitcher Supplier hits the bin, revealing a Faithless Looting and a Gravecrawler. Nice pickups there for Dang out of the bin, but I think it might be a little bit too late.
It's definitely looking that way. Although, with a Neonate discarding Vengevine, if the right set of cards is drawn for Dang, it could be good enough. It looks still rough because there's a lot of pressure coming from Jacob here. But yeah, one line here that can pull Martin out of this is discarding Vengevine, drawing a zombie, getting the Gravecrawler back. That, you know, that gets you Hogak.
Honestly, you're so smart. I don't know how you figure this sort of stuff out. It's really like
I've got
Riley. All the information in front of me, and I just feel like such a dumb idiot. Like, how do you think of that so quick? I mean, all I can see right now is that Jacob Wilson has a lot of power and toughness on the board. He's probably going to win, and then just like, no, do this, and then all of a sudden Martin Dang's got it.
Well, if it weren't for Jacob's Celestial Purge.
Yes. Oh, that's very true. That is a big spanner in the Dane's works here.
Assassin's
Trophy off the top. Does that solve any problems for him?
That's kind of this is a really difficult decision point. That said, with Martin at 13, there's not tons of time here. So, because one line you could do is, you know, get that Death Shadow. But here Martin's sacrificing the Neonate. Oh, and that's
Swamp.
gonna, that's probably gonna spell close to doom.
That is a real stinker off the top there for Dang.
Yeah, because if Martin could have taken it a little slower, you know, blocked Ranger, Captain of Eos, Assassin's Trophy, the Death Shadow.
I mean,
give one more draw step, try to get there.
He's just dead, right? He's just dead. I mean, the Assassin's Trophy can buy maybe one turn, but
it's not looking great.
I mean, Wilson's going to end this game in very short order. He's got a massive board built up. He can attack for lethal this turn.
Yeah, let's see what's in the hand quickly.
Godless Shrine, the pickup, in addition to those cards you've seen on the screen.
Oh yeah, there's a Teamer Battle Rage. I'm pretty sure Jacob won't fire that off on the Death Shadow, but it will shorten the clock since the next turn on a Ranger, it will be enough for lethal damage.
So this will make it lethal. This Marsh Flats will make it lethal here, make the Death Shadow big enough to attack Dang down to 0. And that means that Dang has to respond. There is the Assassin's Trophy. Ooh, and Wilson is just 1 point short with that Team of Battle Rage.
Yeah, exactly. Just 1 point off.
But I mean, you know, do you fire it off to invalidate the fetch lands? You just wait till next turn. You got another Death Shadow in hand. I mean, come on.
Yeah, you don't need to fire it off. One play you can do is always Path to Exile the blocker and then play Teamer Battle Rage to deal the full range of damage.
He's just got everything. Just Jacob Wills. He's got it locked down. He's got it covered every angle.
Yeah,
Path to Exile. He's got a Celestial Purge.
He's got lethal damage.
There's nothing he doesn't have. Fatal Push as well, but it's not going to be enough here as we see Team of Battle Rage juice up that Ranger Captain Vios, and that's all she wrote today, sports fans. Martin Dang goes down in straight sets to Jacob Wilson. A tidy victory for the Canadian there. Never really looked to be in too much trouble. And what I like about Wilson's list there, especially in a Hogak-dominated format, it's proactive and has very relevant disruption, especially graveyard interaction in the main deck.
Yeah, and the parallel I want to draw is to Humans. I think Humans was a great choice for this tournament because it does have a strategic edge against Hogak while not sacrificing its own deck,
its own synergy, that's right.
Right, and something like this deck, like Mardu Death Shadow, is like, look, I'm going to put 1 or 2 cards, and, you know, I'm going to be prepared, but I know that my proactive game plan can get there because I did test a little bit, and I find that often if you have all the hate pieces against Hogak but none of the clock, they just eventually get there.
Yeah, it's overrun. Yeah,
but in that case, it's really hard.
Well, my friends, that's going to do it for right now. We've got to take a quick break. We'll be back here live from Barcelona in just a few moments, so don't go anywhere. We'll see you soon.